Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jared Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect.
It was then that I realized, what does it look like for me to take my power back? What are those steps to getting that power back so that I can take my power? Because I know that I have an incredible mission and story and vision for myself and for my clients and for the world. And when I'm fully in my power and I can step into it, the possibilities are endless.
Today, I'm so excited to introduce to you my friend and my soul sister, Jenna D'Annunzio, a woman who doesn't just coach transformation, she embodies it. As a second-generation breakthrough architect and featured author in the book, Cracking the Rich Code, Jenna has mastered the art of helping high achievers discover their untapped greatness. She's an ICF certified coach, which is the global standard of coaching certifications. She combines her razor-sharp empathy with backgrounds in psychology and education to create quantum shifts for her clients. When she's not revolutionizing businesses alongside her father at Soul Purpose Institute and mission-driven advisor, you'll find this force of nature cheering on her three children on local lacrosse fields. Jenna lives what she teaches, that who we are anywhere is who we are everywhere. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation that will completely rewire your thinking of what is possible. Please welcome my friend, Jenna D'Annunzio. Jenna, thanks for joining me today.
Wow, what an introduction. That was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, it was a no-brainer who I wanted to have in this first couple of episodes of the Breakthrough Effect. I'm going to hit you with a couple of deep questions right off the bat. What truth about success did you have to discover the hard way, and why was that lesson so important to you?
The truth about success. I think the biggest lesson is always centered around this concept of non-attachment. Non-attachment to things that are outside our control, being able to recognize what the controllables are, not only just relative to business, but relative to all of the different areas that we play, right? So I work with the integration of all of the different roles. And you and I were just kind of briefly laughing and chatting about our role as a parent, as a significant other, as a business owner. And so having all of those things together, recognizing that non-attachment is the absolute key to success. The mastery of our mind is the most key to our health, our happiness, and our wealth as well.
You know, that's a concept that I've been learning a lot about recently, and it's totally true. If you can release your attachment to the outcome, you are so much freer. Give some examples of what attachment looks like in maybe life, business, family.
Well, first, what I want to humbly submit is it's not detachment. So when I look at the concept of attachment in general, that is it's like a string that connects us. That is something that I am deeply rooted in understanding and believing and feeling, right? Mm-hmm. But the concept of detaching means that I don't care, versus non-attachment is the ultimate form of caring, where I will actually say to myself, I love myself, my family, my business too much to hold a level of attachment to something that is completely outside of my control. In a business context, what is outside of my control? Whether or not people want to align with me, whether or not somebody responds to an email, whether or not somebody says, wow, you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Mm-hmm. I don't align with your mission at all. That is completely outside of my control. What is in my control is how I choose to respond to those external factors. Mm-hmm. Versus staying detached is really not caring. It's a level of apathy. And that's not true. I do care. I'm just practicing non-attachment. I'm aware of the things And I make a conscious choice whether or not I want to suffer those things, or I want to allow it to fuel my curiosity, my creativity, and my ability to create value and align with people and events that I can do that in and with.
I love that, and I know that you agree with me here. I love seeing what's happening in the spiritual realm when you have attachment. It's the way that I would describe it is like you're bringing your own flesh into the equation, and now you're trying to take something. Like, for example, like if one of my kids, we're trying to raise our children righteously, but yet if I'm attached to their behavior, now all of a sudden, like, I'm actually trying to extract energy out of it, and my mood is then dependent on their behavior. And it's so powerful when we can give, and we can teach, and we can try to help people in business, life, family. But then again, to your point, where we don't have attachment to the outcome, it's actually a place of freedom, right?
Absolutely. It's a place of freedom, but it's a place of curiosity, and it's coming from our higher self. So, we all have a higher self and a lower self. And have you ever heard of the story of the Cherokee grandfather?
I have not.
So you have not. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So it's an old wives' tale of a Cherokee grandfather, and he's sitting there with his grandson, and he's explaining that inside each of us, there's two wolves. The first wolf is loving, joyful, happy, creative, innovative, excited, supportive. The other wolf is vindictive, is full of worry, doubt, fear, procrastination, upset. And these two wolves within each of us are constantly battling one another. And so the grandson looks up at his grandfather and he says, "Well, grandfather, which wolf wins?" And the grandfather looks at his grandson and he says, "Whichever one you feed." So this concept with these wolves inside of each of us, that is our higher self and our lower self. And we all have that within us. Whichever wolf we're feeding, whichever self that we're energizing, that is what's manifesting in our behaviors. So whenever I'm attached to things that are outside of my control, whether it be the weather, my kids freaking out, or, somebody no longer, ghosting me, a client ghosting me, technology cutting in and out, all of those things have nothing to actually do with me. And if I choose to allow those things to upset me and frustrate me, then it's me who's suffering. The weather doesn't care that I'm mad that it's raining and snowing, right? My kids don't really, they're in crisis. I'm just fighting lower with lower at that point. So this is why I look at this concept, and I not only stress it with my client as we take a global view of who they're being and what they're doing within their business, but I'm also striving every day as often as possible to recognize within myself, what can I control? What choices do I have to create favorable conditions for success?
I love it. And you used a very pointed word. I love that idea of choice. So many people think that they don't have options. They don't have choice. The truth is that every moment of every single day, you have a choice to either respond or react. And I think what I hear you saying is that when we react, we are now succumbing to the lower self. Am I articulating that correctly?
Yes. Yeah. The reaction comes from our reptilian brain. It's the amygdala. That's our fight or flight immediately. And that gets all crack at incoming data. So all of our senses, our sense of touch, here's my AirPods, my sense of touch, sight, hearing, taste, all of it comes through here first. And that's where we immediately, okay, is what I'm seeing, is what I'm hearing, is what I'm tasting, is what I'm feeling safe for me? And if it immediately does not feel safe, we are reacting. It's like the immediate touching a pot of boiling water, right? That's what comes first. Then it travels up into the prefrontal cortex, our executive brain, that's where we're like, oh, wait a second, I'm fine, I'm safe. Let me just slow down, take a deep breath, and respond to this external factor.
You kind of touched on it there. Like, what can people do, me included, to get out of this reactive state, like where is that beginning? Is it trying to like get hyper aware to like your own behaviors and your own reactions? Like, because it's a simple concept. Let's just rewire how I think. Let's like just don't react. It's not that big a deal. Why is this so hard? Like, like besides being hyper aware, like
right?
how do we start to wire these neural connections?
Well, first, outside of awareness, your body actually has a visceral response when you feel in danger in any way. Your heart starts to beat, you start to get antsy in your seat. Like you can actually feel your blood pressure rise. Like everybody knows when you start to get angry, like, oh my God, I'm getting triggered. I'm triggered. My kid, or I'm going to freak out. Technology's not working. You can actually feel that. And so a way to rewire, there's a few concepts here. One, which I absolutely love, is box breathing. This is a very quick, tangible way through breath, right? Stress is one of the number one triggers in all of our lives. So box breathing is a technique where you're literally inhaling 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just visualize, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're closing, inhale 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're visualizing. And if you have to draw the box, draw the box. But you're inhaling on 4, you're exhaling on 4, you're inhaling on 4, you're exhaling on 4. In that box formation to allow yourself to come back down to baseline. Now, let's say that you've already verbally vomited a reaction. A way to course correct that in the moment, we've all done it, right? As parents, as business owners, you just react and you throw something out there and you're like, oh, crap, I should not have said that. I didn't mean it. And so a way to course correct that is a concept called pattern. So pattern interrupt is a word or a phrase that you can say after the fact that actually helps to shake up that behavior pattern. So whatever that may look like may be for you. I use a pattern interrupt that actually my father had used for years and years. I didn't even know what it was. And I just started doing it. And then finally, I'm like, what is this? Because it works. Don't know what it is. And that is cancel error thought. So for instance, you got a kid, you're having your kid's birthday party outside this weekend, supposed to be gorgeous. And then the weather takes a turn and now it's calling for rain. And you're like, oh, that's just my luck. Of course that happens to me. Right. And so you're projecting negativity. And what you want to do is you say, cancel error thought. It's going to be a beautiful day no matter what. And you rewrite and you reframe that negative story that you projected.
I hope people are listening to this, because this is huge. If you can get this concept, this is, a lot of people will just say, this is just being positive. And I'm just, I'm trying to work on having a more positive mental attitude. I think what you are saying, I know what you're saying. This is so huge because a lot of people get stuck. I did this, and that I wondered why I was stuck. And now that I am much more less stuck and growing and expanding, I realized that this exact conversation was a massive reason why I could not break through to the next level, because there's something deep at the soul level that happens when we can start to recognize these things, and start projecting that type of energy and having that type of aura and allowing our soul to expand. I love this idea of expansion and contraction. When you react, it seems like your soul contracts and less of that goodness comes in. So this goes far beyond just not losing your temper with your kids and and trying to have a good day, right?
Yeah, of course. But again, who we are anywhere is who we are everywhere. So when we can start to implement these into our everyday, and that's, our kids get the most authentic, unapologetic selves that we have. They get the real, the raw. Let's be completely honest there. And so when we can start to implement these techniques, not only are we modeling that behavior for the next generation, but we're also being a product of the product. And we're also creating favorable conditions for success.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. Again, I hope people listening to this are taking notes, because this is really something that can elevate you to the next level. And it seems so simple, difficult to master, but is a massive breakthrough point for a lot of people. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to switch gears for just a second. I learned recently about your relationship with your mother. I can relate. It was kind of sounds like kind of a tumultuous type of relationship. Talk about the story that was created in your head because of that experience. We're not blaming anybody here, but because of that experience, tell about a story for you that got played kind of on the computer hard drive. And when did you realize that was something that was not something that should be being played?
That's a great question. It was saying to me, the limiting belief that it's so deeply, 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 deeply ingrained in me is that the chronic people pleaser. I am not loved unless I am serving other people and taking care of them. That my self-worth has a direct correlation in validation from others. Chronic people pleaser.
Which again, you will only rise to your level of consciousness. So if your level of consciousness is here, that is a cap that you will create. And by the way, that sounds a lot like attachment. We were talking about that. Like your level of validation was now like dependent on like people pleasing. When did you realize that was a problem? And I don't want to say problem because I don't want to insinuate that you have a problem, you need to be fixed. But when did you realize that was something that needed to get kind of replaced with actual truth?
From my teenage years, established that did not define me. However, it did not really come into a clearer picture how that was manifesting in my behaviors as an adult until probably within the last like 5 or so years.
Oh, wow.
And so that really required me to do some deep dive soul work as I was taking this 30,000 foot view of how I was showing up in all of my different relationships between my clients, between my husband, with my father, with my friends. I was constantly putting myself out there. I was constantly putting all these things on my plate, which were absolutely draining me, not knowing why, but I have a big bandwidth. I can handle it. I can take it all on. So I'm going to take it all on because why not? Well, meanwhile, I'm burning the candle at both ends. And I'm just like, feel like I'm drowning, trying to make everybody happy in every situation and leaving myself the complete opposite.
You talk about giving your power away. Is this an example of how you were letting something from the past, like kind of suck energy and lose that power? Is that, am I hearing you right?
Yeah, external factors, people, experiences, situations where I would let them and it rent space in my head for free for a very long time. And it was then that I realized, what does it look like for me to take my power back? What are those steps to getting that power back so that I can take my power? Because I know that I have an incredible mission and story and vision for myself and for my clients and for the world. And when I'm fully in my power and I can step into it, the possibilities are endless. But when I'm constantly giving it away for free, I'm drained. I don't show up as the woman, as the mother, as the wife, as the friend, as the coach, as the colleague that I want to be. And so learning how to get that power back and turn it into a fulfilled purpose is my life's journey.
I love that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because there are things, whether we're fully aware of them or not, that have that thing that kind of keeps us locked in a certain place or has the ability to release us to the next level. You talked about like getting aware of that and getting my power back. What was that for you? Was that a forgiveness thing? Was that, losing that attachment to it? What was that thing that allowed you to get, quote unquote, your power back?
It was the realization that I am worthy of it and that I don't require anyone else's thoughts, opinions on that matter. That really the only one whose opinion truly, like you can't define my self-love. I won't let you do that anymore. And that's okay. I'm not meant for everybody. And everybody doesn't have to like me. I don't like everybody. So that's okay. Right? Creating those healthy boundaries for myself and knowing what feels right in the moment to me. And I think that really being intentional with what that looks like. I made myself so busy that I wasn't paying attention on purpose to what was serving me and what thoughts I was energizing that were useful, that were productive, that were loving, that were efficient. Because I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. And I can have that both and. I can still be busy and I can still focus on my family and energizing those good things while being intentional with who am I? Who do I want to be? What thoughts, actions, words, and choices are aligned with who I want to be and align with being the happiest, healthiest version of myself.
That's a massive realization that everybody needs to understand that they are enough. They're fully capable. That was something I needed to hear and understand for myself. I always thought I was broken. I wrote a whole chapter on that. Like I thought I was broken and I was never going to be whole. And just having that understanding that I am all of these things. This is what is true, capital T, about myself was a massive breakthrough. You work with a lot of like high end, very successful people. You talk about how so many people struggle with that I am not enough type of mentality. Besides like screaming at people and trying to like shake them by their collars, like how do you get them to understand that they are indeed enough?
I ask them why they feel that way. It's the same way. I mean, we're an onion. And so many people think that it's a particular event that triggers that concept of not feeling like they're good enough. Rarely is it an event that happens, but more so what didn't happen. It's a belief that is deep rooted within us. And so why do you feel like you're not enough? Well, X, Y, and Z happened. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. What players were a part of that event? What was said during that said event? How did that event make you feel? And so we really start to unpack it. And I think that's where, this is where that holistic approach comes from, because I see every single person as complete and whole. And to your point, there's no part of you that is broken. There was a series of events that occurred within your world that instilled this negative program that something wasn't right within you. When in reality, you and I both know you are a whole person. You're an incredible being. And when we can unpack and identify and declare what that was, that's when we can reframe. There's this beautiful scientific term called neuroplasticity. And I know you've heard of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes?
Got it. Yeah.
Neuroplasticity. Yeah, totally. So this is the brain actually can reframe and rewire belief systems and patterns. The science is there. So once we can identify what makes you feel like you're not enough? Oh, well, this happened. And, little Johnny on the playground told me that I sucked and didn't pick me. And I was the last kid to pick to play dodgeball. And so that made me not feel good enough. Right. And then we really start to unpack that. Tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, until you can't. We've hit rock. All right, cool. So now that we established that, and sometimes that brings tears, sometimes that brings anger, all sorts of feelings. I want to hear all of those feelings. We don't brush them under the rug. That's not useful. We feel the feelings and then we say, okay, what does the reframe look like there? And then together we co-create a new story based on that subconscious limiting belief that we were able to tap into the conscious mind. And then I have them reiterate that through meditation, an intention statement, journaling, I am statements, all sorts of really empowering scientific ways, evidence-based ways that show when we do these things, we become happier. When we do these things, we can manifest a healthier, happier, more successful, more abundant way of being.
It's so powerful. I love it. And I love that word reframe, because I think if we can take these things and reframe them, even the difficult things, the limits are now broken. There is no limit as to where we can grow and expand to if we are willing, bold enough, and courage and have enough courage to actually face some of these things and reframe them. It's just such an incredible thing. And it's not just, you're not just immune to it if you are successful. It seems like they're within everybody.
Yeah. No, we all have our stuff. We all have our baggage, right? There's not one person on this planet that is not dealing with a negative story or a limiting belief that they are energizing, that they are bringing into their everyday life based on a series of unresolved conflicts that happen from our childhood. There's not one person on this planet that is void of that situation. So but to your point, it's having the courage. I mean, writing that chapter was probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do, that I didn't have to do it, that I chose to do because that's a very vulnerable situation. But I know that my vulnerability creates credibility. And it really allowed so many people to come into my life and say, dude, you had a really messed up relationship with your mom? Me too. And then we bond over it and how we were able to overcome that, or what that overcome looks like, and how that's showing up in our everyday life, and how it's manifesting in the way that we parent as well.
Yeah.
Which is a big one. So
big one. I want to ask you one more question, then we're going to do a little bit of rapid fire, but I do want to hear your opinion on this. I'm curious, where is the limit of human potential? How far can people take this process? Is it an ongoing process that never comes as long as we're willing to embrace it? But where is the true limit on how far people can grow and expand?
I would essentially say transcendence maybe is even more than unconditional love, from a mental or from a spiritual realm of potential. But truly, I mean, that's dependent on them. It depends on what their fullest potential looks like. In being able to identify and understand what their fullest potential looks like and means to them, that would be the quote limit. But if we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's, he went to self-actualization, but what many people don't know is that sixth realm actually was transcendence. So it depends on where you want to go in your belief system. I feel like anybody's potential. If you tell me I have limitless potential, I am going to be your number one cheerleader, and I'm going to do whatever I can to support you in identifying what that looks like, feels like, and means for you. If you tell me my potential is I want to be standing on a stage 4 times a year with thousands of people, and I just want to pour love into that environment, and that is reaching my fullest potential, I'm here for it.
I love that. And what people need to understand is that I would agree with you, by the way. I do think there's limitations on our physical body, but in the spiritual realm, there really is no limit. And what's interesting is every time you level up, it's like there's another level exposed that you didn't see when you were here. And that's what makes this game so exciting. You know what I mean? Because it's you always have the ability to keep leveling up and going to the next level. I know this conversation was incredibly powerful. And again, I cannot encourage our listeners to really tap in, listen to this episode again, because the stuff that Jenna is talking about is so powerful, and it has the ability to get you unstuck and break you to the next level, no matter where you are. So I really appreciate this insight. I want to do a couple of rapid fire questions before I let you go. Is that cool?
Yeah.
I'm super curious. So what book is one of your top books that this one really hit me the hardest, and it's one that I reread often if I get a chance?
Oh my gosh. That's such a great question. One book?
Is this one not on the list?
Well, of course that's on the list. I reference it all the time, but it's so hard because there's so many brilliant artists and writers out there. And as I'm continuing to grow and evolve, I mean, it depends on my mood. I mean, even Jen Sincero with her Money Mindset Badass, and I love the way that she writes. It speaks to my soul. I love Oprah does a book, and I can't remember, it's here somewhere. It's called What Happened to You. And that really taps into how critical our childhood and what we experienced even as babies has a direct impact on how our brain was formed and our belief systems were formed. In reading that book, so much came to light in my own childhood. And then I see why I do the things that I do, and I can see where it stemmed from, and that just blows my mind. So I really love that one as well.
For people that were listening, not watching this, I held up Jenna's dad's, Steve D'Annunzio's book, The Prosperity Paradigm, which I read for the first time a couple of years ago. I have since reread it. It's one of those books that every time you read it, you kind of go up a level, and I get more understanding from it. Highly recommend that one as well. I was giving Jen a little guff that she didn't come out with her dad's book right away, but no, fantastic book. Next question. What morning habit would you never give up?
Oh my gosh. Saying my gratitude, writing in my gratitude journal, and then also stretching.
I love
stretching
that.
my body is so, yeah. Like I stretch and I just do a deep breathing. So like the first thing that I do every morning is I throw my legs over and I do a quick 30-second to 90-second, depending on the status of the kids. For those of you, if you know, stretching and breathing exercise.
What's a phrase that you tell yourself when you're going through your gratitude journal?
Oh, I am enough.
That's a good one. Last question. I'll let you go after this. If your life was a journey, what would the theme song be?
Whew. God, these questions are good. You couldn't prep me.
Not at all.
God, there's so many good ones. So the first one that just popped in my head, and I don't know why. Now I'm going to have to unpack that. Is you can go your own way.
I like that. Who sings that? I should know this one. Who sings that?
Fleetwood Mac.
Okay, you're an old soul, Jenna.
Next, baby.
You're an old soul. I love it. I love it. Hey, we could go on for hours. I want to thank you so much for your time. You are a soul sister. When we met, we instantly connected, and this is not the first time we've had conversations like this, but I really do appreciate you taking time and shedding some light on some of these massive concepts. Give people a little background as where people can find you best, learn about your book and all the things that you got going on.
Yeah, so I'm on all the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Jenna D'Annunzio Coach, or just Jenna D'Annunzio. I am a very proud co-author of Volume 15 of Cracking the Rich Code. It is written by Jim Britt, endorsed by Tony Robbins. So you want to check that out. And all of the link to get that book is on all of my socials as well.
I love it. By the way, I've read your chapter in your book. Fantastic stuff, and proud of you as a soul sister for what you've done and what you're doing. So keep up the great work.
Yes, and I'm in the process of writing my own solo authored book. So be on the lookout soon, hopefully.
Make sure you give Jenna a big follow on Instagram and all the socials. I love it. Well done. That was easy, right?
Yeah, thank you. Easy peasy.
If this conversation sparks something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jared Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jaredsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.